Welcome to Bootstrapped Unicorns. I'm your host, Josh Pies, the chief attention getter and hippie capitalist at C47 Digital Studios. This show is an exploration of entrepreneurship because it's important to hear people's inspirational stories of where they were and where they're going and how they've gotten to where they are. But even more important is to glean all those tactical, actionable data points that we can use on our own journeys as we grow our businesses, and we can say, yes, we bootstrapped to become a unicorn.
Bootstrapped Unicorns, welcome back. It is Josh Pies, and we're here for another episode. And as I always promise, somebody worth listening to is going to be on the show today, and boy, do I deliver. So I'm hanging out with a longtime dear friend of mine who has helped me buy and sell properties repeatedly across multiple states. He has built a thriving business originally in New York. Now he is, like me, a transplant into Florida. And there's a story behind that. And what we're going to mine into today is how you transport success. Because he was a very successful businessman in another state with a network very dedicated to that state. And now he's down here and rinsing and repeating. And so we need to mine into that today. So I want to introduce you to my friend, Rich Tyson, right now. Rich, how the heck are you, man?
I'm living in paradise. It's it's April. My window's open. There's a breeze blowing in. The sun's out. It's definitely a pretty blessed existence here in Southwest Florida.
Yeah. So yesterday I was on the phone with my friend Mike, and it was 2 days ago. And he's like, Josh, there's ice everywhere. There's cars sliding all over. I'm like, it's the middle of April, man. And he goes, yeah, but it's the middle of April in Rochester. He goes, tell me all about Florida. And he was just going to live vicariously through me. And so I told him, right now it's 72 and partially sunny. I've got a jacket on because we consider this cold. And, and he's like, oh, you poor baby. And so you're even in a sunnier place because you're south of me by 2 hours?
Yeah, I think it's about two, depending on what's going on 75 and I-4, right? It's at 11 o'clock at night. It's 2 hours at this time of day on a Friday or Thursday. It could be, free. But, another couple of weeks, it'll get hotter, and then the roads will open back up again as everybody goes back north. So it's not too bad.
Bye, snowbirds.
Exactly. Although I don't mind the snowbird season because that's when people are out looking at houses and they're getting jealous that their friends live here. They come and visit, and then they're saying, maybe I should buy a place too. So it's a double-edged sword for me.
So is that a busy season for you?
It's interesting. It's totally opposite. I've done real estate in New York now, 13 years. I was there full-time doing it for 10, and I've been down here almost 3 years. And, to me, the mental season is like spring through October is the busy season, and it's opposite down here. So down here, it's October through April is the busier season. There's certainly other transactions taking place all year. But, it's when people are down here vacationing, they get an itch. They're walking by an open house when they're, on Siesta Key, and they're like, you know what? Why are we doing this as a vacation? Let's just make this, a part of our life. So it's a little different, but I'll take it.
All right. So for people who are watching right now, if you look in the background behind Rich, there's a whole bunch of license plates, and I noticed his old truck license plate from New York is in the middle of there. Yep, I love that license plate, Realtor.
Yes.
The license plates there have a story. Tell us that story real quick.
Yeah, so the building that my office is in Rochester is it's a building that was built around 1915. It was originally 2 storefronts, 2 3-bedroom apartments. Somebody cut ours up in the 60s into 4 one-beds, but the one side of the building is an Allstate agency. It's been an insurance agency for decades. And actually, when I bought the building off of the guy, he had owned the building, owned the agency. He had sold the agency off to retire, owned the building. I was renting part of it, convinced him to sell it to me, and then started the undertaking of going through the basement that had 100 years worth of crap in it and got rid of a lot of things. But I came across this box of license plates. I'm assuming back in the day, people were changing over their insurance, their registration or whatever. I don't know. But they're like a bunch of plates from like the 70s and 80s. And I thought they were kind of cool. I liked, it's neat art. So I was like, oh, why not? I'll stick them on the wall behind me so that people aren't just looking at my face and a blank white wall on these types of calls. So, it's a little fun. Still something different. That I've got a couple of my own in there from when I made the escape that I've stuck into the collection.
That's nice. I actually could accuse you of having like an AI background right now because it looks like something that somebody would have put up as a Zoom backdrop. And I just kind of wanted to point it out that those are authentic and your realtor license plate was really yours. It brings me to an interesting point, Rich, because I remember when you bought that building. I know, for full disclosure, everyone, I met Rich when he was selling, I think, IT services. Way back.
It was. I mean, dude, that had to have been probably 16 years ago, something like that. It was a long,
it was going on 20.
That little, it's pretty low. It's kind of scary when you think about it.
I know we've both earned our grays, but, so I only bring that up because, way back then you didn't own property. You hadn't ventured into real estate. And I know you're a legacy. I know your mom has been a very successful realtor for a long time. But I've watched you choose this journey and do very well on it. So give me a little flavor of what was going on up in New York. Not the whole journey, but I know at one point you owned a lot of property. And it looked like if this was a 1960s real estate story in New York, fast forward 30 years, you would have been the legacy landholder that all of the nonprofits would be chasing for donations, because that was, that's how it worked in Rochester, New York for a very long time. You put the time in, you bought the rental properties, you built the business. There was a model there. And you were on that path, and now suddenly you're in Florida. So let's talk about what the path looked like. And then I'm really interested, again, on getting to, because I love watching what you're doing right now, man. It's so fun to watch. And I know that it's instructive to learn from your success pattern. So again, back to New York. What was it like? What were you doing?
Yeah, I mean, like the 2-minute backstory. So, I was in telecom, couple layoffs, decided, a stable, secure job was not. And so, my mother had been selling real estate. I figured, why not? I'd been selling telecom services. I got sick of having my product taken out from underneath me. You're the Verizon guy, then you're the AT&T guy or whatever. You go through these reorganizations. I was in a lot of business to business sales environments. So I figured, going into real estate, I'm the product now, whether my brokerage is a great brokerage. If I want to go independent, I'm going to be the product, and I'm just going to consult with people on purchasing and selling properties. I'm not going to be trying to shove a product down someone's throat. And I really enjoyed that aspect of what I do, is that I'm not trying to sell you something. I tell people I will not sell you a house. I will help you, acquire one. I will not sell your house, but I will help market it to attract the right buyer to it. So kind of got into real estate, and then I had a passion for trying to change over the concentration of poverty that unfortunately exists in the city of Rochester and has for years. Tried to do it through running for office. They did not want to elect a Republican in the city and have not since 1977, I think. So I figured, how else can I make an impact, and started investing into extremely low income housing. It's hard to have someone get their life together if they don't know where they're going to put their head at night. So really ventured into it. I had some connections with people that worked in the county jail, so I understood the idea of that revolving door. So what we did is we embarked on buying up like old nursing homes, these other like resident dentist's office in the city, with these houses where a dentist, back in the 50s would have his practice in the back. So basically single family homes with a lot of rooms. And so I built up a portfolio of 37 properties, 97 doors. 50 of those doors were in 5 individual properties, and they were rooming houses. So it was people coming out of incarceration, rehab, homelessness. A lot of agencies were placing people with us, and then expanded that portfolio into about 17 single families, a few 5 units, and a handful of doubles. And then spent 3 years basically building that from nothing. I wasn't starting with a ton of cash. I was leveraging private financing, buying, packaging them up, doing cash out refis. I was really grinding at it and trying to make it happen, assuming that was going to be to your point, the legacy, right? I was going to be able to build up a portfolio, and then, hey, I could kick back, not have to worry about selling real estate as much, and I could, live the easy landlord life. Well, New York State and the legislature, in all their infinite wisdom, in 2019 passed the Tenant Protection Act, which really extended the timeframes for evictions for non-payment. And it also basically the only thing you were left with is recourse in the event of someone not paying, or, even squatting in a property, was like trying to get, a judgment. And effectively, the people I was trying to create housing for are judgment proof. They're not people that have credit scores that they're worried about. That's not of a concern to them. A lot of them were on, a government subsidy. So you're not going to garnish someone's wages. There's no wages to garnish. And so I started seeing the writing on the wall, started speaking with county and state legislators saying, you're going to destroy all the small, especially low income housing providers. They thought that they were on the right track with everything. So I just said, I got to get out of this thing because it's going to be a sinking ship. And then, of course, a few months after they passed that, several months is when COVID hit. So then there was a moratorium on evictions, which I was like, I'm going to be done. I'm going to lose, my ass on this thing. So I started liquidating. So then, from 3 years from nothing to those, and then another 3 years to strategically liquidate that portfolio because they were all in different financing positions and different equity positions. So I was so disheartened in that process that for continuing education that year, I said, I've got to do these hours. I'm going to get licensed in Florida. My wife's, why? I said, it's a parachute just in case. Then during COVID, obviously we pulled our kid out of the public schools, put her into a private school. So I was paying high property taxes for schools I didn't use and then paying the bill for private schools. And then it was a couple months after that, that my wife's employer says, you can work from home forever. And I said, that's it. This is our exit. So I've learned throughout that it was a very tough 3-year period of trying to dismantle something I'd worked so hard to build. But blessings often come in the disguise of something that's painful, challenging. And I really think that, I think that God wanted it to happen the way it did. And now I'm living in Southwest Florida and starting over here 2.5 years in. And I had to relearn the business. I knew it was going to be a big growth and learning opportunity, and it certainly proved to be. It has not been easy all the time, but it's been, but I'm having a good time with it.
Well, you're a resourceful guy. And I think this is kind of, because you and I, we have similar stories, right? I had a business completely attacked and fall apart in about, 12, 15 years ahead of your story, and reimagined my life in film and television. And then, just kind of discovered similarly, not because of any new laws changing my industry, but just because New York State's not friendly to business in the first place, it wasn't the place for us. So we relocated to a business-friendly state that more aligned with our political values, and have been exerting pressure on friends, like calling you and saying, move to Florida, gosh darn it. And clearly that had at least a little bit of influence because you're here. But I remember having to try to transport from there to here, knowing that I'm also scrappy. I'm going to figure it out. I believe in myself, but I didn't have a network anymore because my network was very centralized to the Rochester, Buffalo, Syracuse region, the same way yours largely was. I knew people in other places. Totally. I knew some people down here. But when you're moving to the 18th largest market in the United States, some people being 5 or 10, that is not even a full drop in the giant bucket. I know I had quite a learning curve and I had a lot to do. So I'm watching you. You're 2.5 years in here. And first of all, your videos are crushing it. I love your new style. And you and I used to work together on this stuff, and I would coach you. And you clearly have embraced this full. And some of that indicates to me that the one indication is you're still hungry to grow in your market. You're at a place where you've got the bandwidth to do this, which is a really good sign. So tell me about the move and the ascent towards success again here in Florida, because I want to learn from you. How are you doing this?
Sure. Well, and obviously, when I started my business in Rochester, my wife had opened the boutique in the space that's now my office. She got offered a job. I got laid off the day after. So I went to run the shop with a 6-week-old daughter in a bassinet behind the counter. And I hit Facebook and started messaging everybody I knew that I'd grown up with, worked with. You have that network when you're from a place and you've lived there for 30 something years. And the business just kind of started rolling. I never really advertised. I didn't really market myself. It was kind of word of mouth connections, and, things started going. And it's, I always made more money than I'd made in my best corporate job. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm doing something right. But I never, it was, I guess, an easy start, for lack of a better term. So coming down here, I knew 2 people. One was a buddy of mine that had moved down from Canandaigua the year before, which I actually live across the street now, because I came and I said, well, if he can live in this neighborhood, I guess I can make it too. And the other person I knew was a realtor. And so when I came down, I was like, I got to learn how to market. I got to I got to figure this out, and I'm going to figure it out one way or another. So started doing I created a lead gen website where, you're paying Google that when people are searching for homes in Sarasota, they're going to, ideally find me. If they want to see the inventory, they've got to put in their information, and then I pester them on the phone until they hopefully call me back. And, you're looking at 1% to 3%. You're a rock star if you're converting 3% of those leads. And it worked. It definitely got the ball rolling on some things. I was in the black on the investment. But it wasn't the way I really wanted to grow my business. I prefer to do it through personal connections and relationships. And so, that first year was kind of I felt like I was getting thrown in the ocean for the first time, figure out how to swim. But I always knew I wanted to go back to something I had started early in my career, which was I started a series 585 Rocks, 585 area code ROCS. And it was interviewed Josh Miles and Blue Cease from the, contemporary art or the art studio downtown. Tommy. Is
that how you say his last name, Cease? I've always called him Blue Cheese.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, Tommy from Iron Smoke Whiskey, and my wife was producing the videos for me, which is why they were of quality, but she was busy with her full-time job. She's like, I can't commit to this. But I loved the concept of, I always tell people, I'm a realtor and nobody really gives a shit, right? There's a million realtors down here. You go into a bar on Main Street, you'll meet 5 people that have a license at least. Whether they're actually, conducting any business is another story. So just to go out there and be like, hi, I'm a realtor, nobody cares. You've got to find a way to connect with people. And to just go out there and be like, hey, I want to be your friend. It's like, okay, there's people are certainly pleasant here, but I wanted a bigger hook, and I wanted to do something that, in my opinion, was going to create some value for others. So I started doing, I was proactive. I was answering the question a lot, hey, Rich, I'm thinking of Tampa to Naples, Southwest Florida. I'm like, you got to come to Sarasota. Why? So it's like, well, we got this, we got that. You're answering these questions all the time as a realtor about why someone would want to move here. So it kind of blossomed into, I'm going to create a video series proactively answering the question of why Sarasota. So literally the series is called Why Sarasota. My 50th episode drops next week. So in be honest with you, I wasn't terribly busy last year. I had a good year in real estate sales, but it wasn't the year I wanted. So I actually had the bandwidth to go out there and put these things in motion, go out there, interview the people and schedule the appointments and and discover the things that I wanted to bring to people's attention. It gives value to the people that I'm interviewing because it allows them to showcase their business or their entity or their organization. Ideally, it's providing value to people, whether they're local and looking to know more of what's going on. They're fresh, off the boat here in Sarasota, or they're looking from afar and wondering what place in Southwest Florida they may want to live. So that's it, but it wasn't asking anybody for anything other than a few minutes of their time to showcase who they are and what they do. And in the video series has done extremely well in terms of broadening my network here locally. People, I go back into a business, go back in for a cup of coffee or in for a cocktail, and people, it's a very warm reception. Hey, and they're quick to introduce. Hey, Rich did this great video. You should check it out. I repurpose the content a lot in email marketing to other people. Use it on social media. In a lot of these different groups, different local, hyper-focused local groups. I love Sarasota. People, I'm new into town. Where's a good place to grab a slice of pizza? Yeah, go check these guys out. You tag them and then post the video interview. So now you've created more context than just, a quick recommendation. So that's really where the series kind of blossomed from. And it's just consistency. It's not a big heavy lift. And I thankfully found a brokerage here with Preferred Shore. The first year I was with a different brokerage, saw what their media team was doing in terms of just high quality listing videos and pictures, and met the broker. And I was like, I got this vision for what I want to do and I need a media team behind it. Could I use the media team for these other things? And his answer was like, not yes, but hell yes. Like, please, we've got an incredible team here of media professionals. Take them out and do this, because he knew it would be good for my brand. It would be good for his brand. And it's certainly proving to be true. So, had to relearn the business. But I'm still going back to who I am as a salesperson, or as a realtor, is connections, human beings, trying to create value for people without asking for anything in return, and knowing that at the end of the day, it comes back around in some form or fashion.
I love that. And so that's really, C47, our whole business model here is exactly what you're doing, where, yes, you do have to release the video, or with us, the video podcast, but you almost don't have to if you're building great relationship and rapport in the act of creating the podcast or creating the the pizza shop tour video, as it were. And I find personally that that relationship built over that great conversation experience has long-term value. And you've been doing this now for about a year. What are you seeing when it comes to kind of the repeat contact and connection that you may or may not have with people that you've had on the show? Does anybody ever drop you a text? Do they ever make a connection and hook you up? Are you asking for it? Are they surprising you with it? What's that construct look like?
That's a good question. I've had a lot of people refer me to other people. Like, hey, you're looking to buy or sell a house, you got to call Rich. The anecdotal one, and you'll appreciate this kind of an anecdotal story on this. So I did an interview of this business in downtown called Classico. It's been there for 14, 15 years. It's on an exceptional corner on Main Street. It's a bar, restaurant. It's been there. It's a good hub for people. I interviewed the owner about it. And in talking, he's like, oh, you're from upstate New York. You should meet a buddy of mine. He's from upstate New York. Okay, sure. Why not? So he sends out a group text. He sent it to my 585 number. I've got a 941 number as well. And the person replies back, 585, do you know Mike Montesano? And I was like, yeah, I sold him his house in Webster. And he's like, yeah, it's my cousin's kid. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. He's a local spine doctor, Dr. Montesano. And now I've got his $3.5 million house on Siesta Key listed. And he's referred some other people to me and you got to call Rich. It's that typical, tight Italian family. Like once you're in, even if you're not Italian. And so like that kind of stuff. I did an interview on a different restaurant in downtown and the hostess calls me, a couple months later. She's like, hey, I'm ready to buy a house. Can you help me out? Of course. So I, sold her a house. So I'm finding that people are there. It's like you've gone out, you've provided value to them. You've made them look good. I mean, thankfully the media that these guys are producing for me is incredible. So you've made them look good. And it's like they almost feel obligated to send something back your way because you never asked for anything to begin with. There's people that are out there doing this. They're like, I'll charge you a few bucks. It's like, it's a lot easier to get in and just say, yeah, let me, come do this. So
they're missing the point if they're charging, honestly. If you're out, like, give me $400 and I'll put you on my show, that is the most transactional dead end for the type of opportunity that's right in front of you. It's sad when people do that.
Totally. Yes. The interesting impact that I didn't expect to see is I've actually had now some of these businesses reach back out, say, hey, we used some of that content you created. Because usually what I'll do is I'll produce a 4 to 6 minute video. We'll chop a few reels out of it. So I drop the main video and then sprinkle some reels out, collaborative posts. And one of them called me. He's like, hey, I've used some of those reels as ads on social media and they're really doing well. Can I hire you to come back in and interview some of my customers that we can use then as more reels to put out for content? So I was like, okay, sure. Or I had another business say, hey, we want to do kind of like a quick video on our business. And could you bring in a media person to shoot it and do some voiceover work? So it's actually interesting that that's kind of now coming my way that I would have never kind of anticipated that.
So at that point, are you choosing to be hired as a video production company, or are you still doing it as a relationship builder where you come in and either offer it gratis, or is there a middle ground where you say, hey, I'm Rich, the local Sarasota realtor guy, and I'm interviewing Happy Pizza customer X, check it out. Like where do you land in these opportunities? What's your take on that?
So it's interesting, like the one I just did voiceover work for. I mean, people have always told me I have a voice and a face for radio, right? So
yep, I would agree.
So like that one, but so my wife does a lot of this stuff. So it's actually translating into some interesting opportunities for her. Doing some freelance creative work, which I think there's going to be some interesting shakeup on that front this year as well of branching out more and utilizing some of her talents. So,
and she's wildly talented, and I'll give a resounding recommendation. Fawn's, her aesthetic is brilliant. She's patient, she's creative, and I lead with patience because you have to be patient with client work. So yeah, I can see why she is so good at what she does. You're blessed with that natural merger of your talents.
It is, and it's now that I've got more and more of these connections in town, and I don't know about where you are. I'm sure you see it some, but what I'm finding in Sarasota is there's a lot of people that have had success someplace else. I've met more 40-something-year-old retired people down here. Like the first couple times I thought they were like, are you serious? But like, no, I had a software company and we were in Chicago and we sold it. I'm worth 500 million and I don't want to be in Chicago anymore. Now I'm here and they buy the big house on the water and then, okay, I'm bored. These are entrepreneurs. They're not people that are going to sit around and go fishing every day. A lot of them have kids. So they're like doing that kind of stuff, but then they're like, well, I've always had a passion for this or that. So now I'm going to go start another business. Like I don't want to do software sales again, but I like fishing. So I want to start a fishing charter company, or I've always wanted to own a tiki bar and I got my own spin on it. So I'm meeting more of these people that are well-heeled. They have had previous success. They're not looking to sit down and retire, and they're launching new stuff. And there's a lot of money moving into Sarasota from bigger markets. So, and now that I'm connecting with more of these people, I see all these opportunities where my wife can capitalize on her skills and her talents. And it would be a great cross-pollination if she's out doing work for those people and building a network of her own. And then I'm out doing my thing and building a network, and there's some crossover to it. It would be good to kind of feed back and forth off of each other. And we just keep, maybe we're just going to try to be, a power couple here in Sarasota. And I think, give me another year or two, and I think we'll be on a lot of people's radar personally.
Yeah, and there's a distinction there because you're already a power couple. It's the radar thing that's up and coming, right?
Yes.
So you're right. It's only a matter of time. And I agree to a certain degree about Florida that there are a lot of people who cash in big and do retire to Florida, but it's Central Florida where I am is not that location.
Yep.
Not that there isn't a lot of high net worth individuals. Everybody here in our entire office building, for the most part, is involved in exclusively alternative investments. And you have to be an accredited investor to even get there, which means you hit some type of success. And so we see a lot of people here. So we know it exists, but I think it's more prevalent in the more vacationable areas. And I would call your area very different vacation than, say, the theme park area that we have. And I'm watching like Epic Universe is getting built right now. I say built, it's actually, it opens at the end of May. And so we're going to have the struggle of new traffic. I can't even imagine what that's going to look like soon. And so if you've cashed in for $500 million on your business and you're leaving a cold state for a warm state, I don't think you deliberately live down the street from the largest new theme park on the planet.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. And actually, there's a new tower going up in downtown. Sarasota is going to have the highest number of Ritz-Carlton residences of any city in the world.
Really?
Which, I mean, it's like, yeah. There's a brand new Ritz. I mean, the amount of multi-million-dollar condos that are being built and currently available. I've got one right now listed in the Boulevard. It's like just shy of 4.4 million, 3,900 square foot. It's a corner unit looking straight northwest over the park, the bay. I mean, and there's a building going up across the street, one park, and those are exquisite. There's a new Ritz-Carlton residences going up. There's a lot of high dollar inventory down here for sure.
Fascinating. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're in the mood to get a $4.4 million corner unit overlooking the bay, we know who to call. And it's not a Ghostbuster.
Absolutely.
So it's really interesting. So one of the things that I'm noticing is there's a lot of people who would have made a transition and done a lot of middle tier work, so they would have come from New York, they'd go down and they'd be at the local school board. They'd be at at their kids' school doing whatever in order to get in with people who are doing $500,000 transactions. Everything that you've just talked about is million plus. And of course, in the industry, they call it luxury real estate. I don't know if it's luxurious or not. It depends on the market that you're in. But it seems like you're aiming high. What's the secret, in your opinion, to aim high like that?
So I'll say I'm aiming high, but I'm not too good for anything. I mean, I've got a $4.4 million condo listed in downtown. Conversely, I've got a $145,000 55 plus mobile home listed right off of Siesta Key. To me, it's all relationships, right? You do well by the person who's got the mobile home today, and then their cousin or their nephew says, oh, they used to have a place down there. We like it. We're going to come down. And then they're the ones that are buying a $2 million house. So Rick Leisure, who I think you probably know that name.
Of course.
He's a realtor, quite successful in Rochester. I remember when I first got in the business, my mother was in the business, but I said, Mom, I want to meet with a successful realtor that doesn't love me. Meaning I want someone who's going to shoot me straight, tell me what's going on. And I met with Rick for coffee. He was gracious with his time. And I was like, what's your biggest suggestion? He's like, take everything. He goes, it all adds up and it all equals relationships. And that really stuck with me. Like, some agents, I don't touch this or I don't touch that. Now, ideally, I'll get to a point where I'm so busy that I may have some other agents that I'm saying, okay, these are price points. I'm going to let you take care of this and I'm going to focus on this. But really, the idea of shooting high, the year before we moved here, I sold the second most expensive property in Monroe County. It was for a former executive that we worked with at Paytech. And it was the most expensive property was the house that the guy that sold this house bought. It was actually Bill Napier's old place on East Avenue near Oak Hill Country Club. The house I sold was it was a $2.5 million sale. For Florida realtors, that's like, okay, that's like half the neighborhoods in town, right? But in Monroe County, $2.5 million was, it was 11,000 square foot on 12 acres, and it was out in Pittsford. It was pristine. And I remember
it's funny what the difference
the first
is.
year I was in.
Let me cut you off for a second.
I know.
It's $2.5 million. How many square feet?
I think it was just over 11,000 square foot.
Translate that into Florida real estate right now, though. So an 11,000 square foot property in Florida is going to be way more. Are we talking like 20 million?
Oh, depends on the location. Yeah, it depends. Like, right, location. But yeah, you're near the coast and something like that. You're multi-millions. You're out in Mayaca and you've got 100 acres around you. It's probably a little different story. But yeah, it was a huge sale, right? That was more than I did my first year in business, cumulative. And I remember I got the check for it and I looked at my wife. I was like, it's the same paperwork, right? It's the same thing, whether you're selling $50,000 homes or you're selling $5 million homes. Now, obviously the connections you're making and the conversations you're having are a lot different, but it's all about connecting with people and doing well by them. But I was like, it's the same paperwork. I filled the same stuff out a million times, and this time it resulted in this, where other times it results in this. And so I remember when I first got access to the MLS here, I was like, excited. Like I get to see what's in the market. I remember I pulled up like Sarasota County, what's over $1 million? And it like pops up like too many results to list. And I was like, are you serious? I was like, so I upped it like 2 million. I'm like, okay, now I've got, several hundred properties. I was like, holy crap. Like this is like there's some expensive stuff down here. And so, yeah, this, the biggest sale I've had to date down here is 1.89 or 1.9 million last year. I've sold some stuff as cheap as $115,000 to a guy from Scottsville that wanted a little place in a 55 plus community. Right. So, but yeah, the clientele that's coming here is if you're capturing it, you can be in really good shape. And I could see my business doing far beyond anything I would have ever imagined being able to accomplish in Rochester, unless I was just out there trying to sell 400 houses, which I don't want to be a factory. I like to provide actual personal attention to my clients. I like to be involved. So yeah, down here, and so to me, it's like when I came down here, where do I want to be? It's like, well, I'd like to shoot to the top. I'll take what comes my way. But that's why I've been kind of trying to just network with people that are in those circles that are able to make those types of purchases and have those types of properties that they're looking to list and sell. And, it's a grind, but we're getting there.
Awesome. Next 3 chess moves for you, 2025. What are your next 3 chess moves?
Ooh, good question. Continue the series. Sorry, my phone was ringing. Turn that off. I'm 50 episodes into Why Sarasota. Some things that I want to accomplish. I've got another series I do called Build SRQ, and it's been focusing on interior designers, custom home builders, and architects featuring their properties, helping to market the property without listing it, just to demonstrate the skills that I've got in terms of how do you present a property like that. So I've got a few relationships. I've got a few projects I'm waiting on these builders to finish up that we're going to be featuring, which I'm excited about. What else do I want to do? I want to actually get my wife's business growing. I think there's a lot of opportunity here, and I think that would be another way to really get some more tentacles into the area. Third chess move. I don't know. It's a good question.
You don't have to have 3, but I'm glad you've got plans. That's the key. You've got plans.
Yeah, absolutely. And just keep focusing on building relationships, meeting key individuals, and not with the intent of just selling them real estate, but just trying to get out there, create value to people, and know that at some point it ideally comes back around.
Awesome. Awesome. So you are somebody who has opinions. We have talked about them, and you may not be willing to share them publicly. I don't know, because sometimes your hot takes are truly hot takes. But I need one hot take. I don't care if it's about business. I don't care if it's about the new sneakers that came out. I need a hot take from you right now.
Hot take is if you are experiencing a point in life where you're frustrated, miserable, unhappy, you feel like you want more, and you're afraid to step out and do it, pray on it and lean into your God-given talents, and you will be shocked at where it can take you. I've been told that this video stuff that I do, people are like, you're really gifted at it. It is a gift. I think it's a gift from God. And it's like, if I'm leaning into it and it's resulting in me moving towards a direction that I feel is the correct way to go and on the right path, I think there's a reason for all that. And so don't be complacent. Don't feel like you're stuck. Take that negative and turn it into positive energy, put it in your tank, and move forward.
Awesome. Well, I think we've gotten a ton out of you today, and I thank you for your time. What are you're going to hang up with me? What is the next move today? What does Rich do to make today a success?
I've got a good couple meetings coming up. Some listings, some sales that I'm looking to work on, some other strategic connections I'm looking to make here in town. But before I go, I want to say thank you. And I want your audience to know that you were really an integral part in my journey in the video stuff. I know when I started it back up during COVID, I was like, my wife was like, get out of the house, take the kid. She's not doing anything anyway. And we started walking around the parks in New York just to show people, okay, it's the only thing you can do is go to the park. And so started, very rudimentary shooting and editing my own video because I couldn't afford to pay someone else to do it at the time. My wife was too busy with her full-time job, and you consulted with me quite a bit over a year and a half.
Yeah.
And gave me a ton of ideas. And I know for a fact that having gone through that process with you, stumbling through shooting and editing video has made me a better in front of the camera because I understand what goes on behind the camera. So there's been a lot of, I've been able to work with this media team in a way that most other agents, even if they're trying, don't totally grasp because they don't understand the concept of, not looking dumpy before the camera turns on, keep a smile so that they don't have to try to make those quick edits. And it's been able to empower me to provide them like actual valuable feedback instead of just, I don't know if I like it, or it's been like, hey, here's my vision. Here's how I think we can do this. I understand what you guys are going to experience, the challenging on the editing side. So how do we make this work really well? So if it wasn't for the knowledge base, it was a great investment with you and my time with you into myself. That's still reaping rewards, even though I'm not shooting and editing my own anymore. I thank you so much. And you were very patient with me. You were very, very knowledgeable. And so, it's still resulting, what I'm doing today is better because of my time spent with you. And I appreciate it.
Well, I'm honored, and I have to admit it was fun. If we're not talking about what we're talking about here, you and I might be talking about expensive watches and a sip of scotch, right? We have our interests outside of that because we enjoy each other's company, but it was really an honor and a lot of fun to work with you. And I would not hesitate to rehash some of your old stuff, the stuff with, Ari when she was little, and some of the stuff she's doing now that she's got her black belt, do some kind of a memory lane mashup and use that to feature like a local park that a teenager would be interested in or something in Sarasota. But kids and puppies play very well in videos. Don't hesitate to celebrate, daddy-daughter stuff that you used to do and translate that to your current existence. I think it'd be a great video.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I like it.
I'll send you the bill.
This has been a great, man. I'm so glad to have finally gotten on the podcast with you.
Yeah, I'm really glad you're here. So unicorns, you should be going back to work in a second, but I won't let you go just that quick. Next episode, I happen to know I'm recording with an awesome guy named Neil Sampat. You're going to want to tune in for that. He's coming. Actually, he's flying in, which I don't have that happen very often, but he's flying in just for this. He will be in studio in my time in the real world in the next 2 hours. But he is an entertainment attorney. He is a business law attorney. He's got an engineering background. He and I have produced movies together, and he's Rich. He's like you, brother. He's an enjoyable conversationalist. I wish we could all hang out right now. So it's going to be a great conversation, but you're going to pick up all sorts of gold in this next episode. So between now and then, you need to subscribe, you need to follow, you need to go into the podcast ecosystem and find your best way to listen to this show and make sure you're subscribed, because you need to be there for moments like these. And until then, get back to work.